Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Oregon City Commission. We will convene the meeting and we will have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Would you please all rise and join me in the flag salute? Or join us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for those of you that are regular attendees of this meeting and you're wondering why we have some people in suits, we had some official photography taken today, so we are a little more dressed up than we normally are. I'd like to take this moment, we don't have any ceremonies and proclamations tonight, but I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge that at our last meeting, we acknowledged the loss of a community member, and unfortunately, we are here tonight to acknowledge the loss of another community member. Former Mayor John Williams passed a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, John and I were friends. We did not always agree on all the topics, but I will say this, that we could disagree without being disagreeable. We had many a time of laughter, some of sorrow, but we also shared a love of history, and we had a lot of fun talking about William S. Uren. He had recently written a book about it and about him, and he was surprised that I knew who he was. He was the initiator and author of the initiative and referendum process that we have in Oregon today, so we owe him a great deal of debt. Mr. Uren was an outstanding citizen, and also John was also an outstanding citizen. I'm going to ask my colleague and friend, Rocky Smith, if he wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, I was friends with John Williams as well for a long, long time, and before he became mayor, and John became really close friends with my great uncle Don Anderson after they were both mayors, and Eddie Alec as well. In fact, John dedicated his book to both of those people. And I was, when you lose people that you love or get to know over the years, you think about things. I wanted to share several of my memories of John. So when John Williams ran for mayor, and as you know, I frequently design campaign signs for people, lots of people. And I think my first campaign sign that I did was for John Williams running for mayor. And John Williams, and this is why it seems like so long ago, at the time, if you drove up McLaughlin Boulevard, it was primarily Scott Thomason owned. And you remember the the yellow and black banners all down McLaughlin Boulevard. So when John Williams ran for mayor, he said, well, Rocky, I want you to design my signs, and I want them to look exactly like that. I want them to look exactly like the Scott Thomason ads. And I thought, okay, John, as the designer of this, there could be some problems. And he said, I understand the problems. We're doing it. So within not too long, it became local news throughout the area that John had gotten a notice from Scott Thomason to basically cease and desist his campaign signs all over the city. But Scott Thomason was getting just as much advertising out of it as John Williams was, so the signs stayed up and nobody really said much about it. But I also want to acknowledge John Williams for one of the things that I remember too. John Williams was key to moving the John McLaughlin bust. If you know where the John McLaughlin bust is today, overlooking the mill site, that bust was actually farther down McLaughlin Boulevard, and he wanted it to be moved into a more prominent spot where people could get access to it. And the other thing is John Williams' work on starting the first Oregon City Arts Commission. That's how I got to know John Williams. We started the first Oregon City Arts Commission, which kind of went away over time and is now back. but John Williams was very instrumental in getting the Arts Commission originally started in Oregon City. So I just want to send my thoughts to the family. We miss him, and he's just a very important piece of this town, and I wanted to acknowledge him.
So I'd like to call on my friend, neighbor, and also former Mayor Doug Neely to come up, please.
Thank you, Mayors and Commissioners. John Williams, I believe, moved to Oregon City shortly after he retired from the service as a colonel. I got to know him very early on as well, and I got to serve with him for the full 4 years that he was mayor. He did a lot of things that, sometimes things will probably be forgotten, but he was very involved in the transfer of the property to the McLaughlin House to the National Park Service, he and John Salisbury. And the city was not in a position to keep that building, the John McLaughlin House, and also the Dr. Barkley's house in any kind of condition and so forth. So an easement was granted to the National Park Service, and we are really pleased that happened in a very short period of time. He also was voted for the restoration of the Carnegie. We on the commission voted to use urban renewal funds for that particular project. It had been this form had changed many times over time. It did not look like one of the traditional Carnegie libraries, and that did happen. He supported in my lifetime, the first major change in the Beaver Creek 213 intersection there, and also the Washington Street Bridge reconstruction, and also the 7th Street corridor. So many things happened during his time, and he's dearly missed. He was 95 when he passed away. Thank you.
So I want to make a little correction. So the late Mary Coates was president of the McLaughlin Memorial Association at the time that transition took place. So she also deserves credit, along with John Salisbury and the board, of which I think you were still on at the time, and we both still are. But yeah, so Mary and John worked tirelessly together on that particular project. All right, so let's move on to our regular business agenda. Thank you, Doug. So on tonight's agenda, under item number 7, we have 6 and 7 adoption of the agenda. Is there anything anybody has concerns about with regard to the consent agenda? I did want to note, Mr. City Recorder, that in one of the sets of minutes, it auto-corrected my name. So I was going through it and I said, oh, I guess I changed the spelling of my name. I'll find that. Yeah, it's under the November 7th minutes. So just minor. And it does it to me too when I type my name sometimes in the computer, even though it's supposed to know me, it auto-corrects my name. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as submitted. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, item number 8, we have 2 public hearings on the agenda. We have resolution number 23-28, a real estate contract for the sale of public works property located at 13445 Gaffney Lane. And that would be our esteemed Public Works Director, John Lewis, who is coming up to the dais as Mr. Conkle is going to introduce the item.
I was just going to introduce it real quick and have John answer any questions that we may have because,
I know, but you know I like to do that.
Yes, I do. Thank you, evening mayor and commissioners. Tonight we have a proposed resolution for the sale of a property located at 13445 Gaffney Lane. adoption of this resolution authorizing the sale in its entirety of the city-owned property located at that address, and it authorizes the city manager to execute the sales contract. This property was purchased back in 2010 as part of a TSP, Gaffney Lane Realignment Project. That project has been completed, so at this time, this property can be returned back into the private sector, private side. It was purchased with transportation system development charges in 2010 for approximately $240,000. We put it on the market at $525,000. The proposed sale price is $523,923. We anticipate, if this is approved tonight, that this would close on or before January 5th of 2024. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions, gentlemen? Is there a motion?
We do need to have the public hearing. I don't know if anybody.
Yeah, excuse me. All right. Let's open the public hearing on resolution number 23-28, real estate contract. Is there anybody here who would like to have a discussion about that item? All right, hearing none and seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, is there a discussion or is there a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution number 23-28, a real estate contract for the sale of public works property located at 13445 Gaffney Lane.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in, roll call, please. Sorry, I was at a different meeting where I said now for the vote.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Sorry, so before we go to item 8B, I want to back up to item number 4 because we do have somebody here under that item, but their sheet got waylaid. Judy, come on up. So be quick. Oh, that's fine. You're fine, Judy.
Good evening. My name is Judy Schaefer. I'm a resident of Oregon City. I'm a registered nurse and a retired nurse practitioner, and I currently do the foot care at the Pioneer Community Center. And I was here a year ago to complain about my rent being doubled, and I'm happy to say that the following day, that rent increase was rescinded, and I've continued to practice there. In the last year, I've seen 351 people to date. That's 700 feet and 3,510 toes that I've taken care of. I have about a 90% show rate, which in medical office is unheard of. So my patients show up or they're sick. I want to just again reiterate that compared to people that do foot care in the senior centers in Milwaukee and Portland, they charge $5 to $10 more, and they are only charged 10% their gross for rent, and I'm charged 15%. So I just want the city to know that they're still getting a very good professional situation here. And the reason I do this is because my mom asked me to do this. She was very dedicated to the Pioneer Center, and so I do this, of course, for the financial reward, but also for a professional and community reward, because I really believe in it. About 2 months ago, I asked the center if I could have a cabinet so I would not have to carry my supplies in and out every week. And they gave me one. And I just want to say thank you, because that means a lot to me to have that little bit of consideration for doing that service there, because this is kind of a public-private cooperative venture here that provides something for our citizens. And it may seem trivial to all of us, but it's not trivial when your toenails are 3 inches long and they're curving under your feet, and your wife does not have the strength anymore to cut them. So I want to thank you and wish you all very good holidays.
Don't leave yet. Don't leave.
Pardon?
I have a question for you. So would you explain to our audience and the public that's watching tonight why foot care for seniors is so critical and so important?
When your toenails grow out long, it's very difficult to walk on them. They cut into your skin and they can cause infections, bad odor. They scratch you. You get people that have compromised circulation, and most of us do at some point in our life. The legs get scratched and get superficial infections on them. If you're diabetic, those can become serious. And I'm proud to say, or maybe it wasn't just me, but I have sent several people to their doctors and hopefully saved them from having their toes amputated because I found infections and ulcers that they couldn't feel. So and it's a mobility thing, being able to walk and stand up without your feet, your nails digging into the bottom of your toes and feet.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think we all
And I think
feel-
the partners are really glad that I cut the toenails too. So
I
they don't
think the
get
commission
scratched.
is very appreciative of the service and our seniors who may not be able to do this anymore for themselves. It's a really wonderful thing, and thank you for your service there.
I hope to always come and give you a yearly report on this though, because maybe those are trivial things to all of you, but there's the little things that make our city really wonderful, and I want to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to item 8B. So we have a first reading of ordinance number 231011, a legislative zoning code text amendment to the mixed-use corridor zone district, LE 23-4001. And I see we have one of our planning staff here. Mr. Conkle, did you want to do the intro?
So tonight we have legislative requests for the first reading of ordinance 231011 and approved legislative file 230001 for a conditional use change within the mixed-use corridor 1 district. I'll turn it over to Mr. Walters to give the presentation.
Do we have a PowerPoint, Mr. Walter?
Yes, I do.
Oh, fantastic.
A short one. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Pete Walter, and I'm the Planning Manager with the Planning Division. PGE, Portland General Electric, has proposed a legislative zoning code text amendment to the Chapter 1729, which is the city's mixed-use corridor zone, to recognize its existing operations center as a conditional use in the mixed-use corridor zone. And the text amendment, if approved, would allow PGE, following this text amendment, to apply for conditional use and site plan and design review to expand their existing operations center. And I will show you a overhead slide of that. The operations center is located at 209 Warner Milne Road. It currently occupies 2 tax lots indicated here, currently occupying 6.59 acres on the north side of Warner Milne Road, across from the Beaver Creek Road intersection. The use of that property is legally non-conforming within the mixed-use corridor zone district, and a public utility facility requires a conditional use permit in order to expand in the mixed-use corridor zone district. The mixed-use corridor zone district prohibits outdoor storage, which is a necessary component of the operations center. The properties that are affected by this amendment include all of the mixed-use zone potentially, but this operations center would be very limited in scope and would expand potentially to the east another 6 or so acres. But that proposal is not coming before you tonight. Tonight, we're just looking at the text amendment. The proposed text amendment is illustrated here on the slide. Currently, the code reads that public utilities and services, including substations such as buildings, plants, and other structures, are conditional uses. The code amendment would expand that to include utility facilities and outdoor storage associated with the conditional use. PGE needs outdoor storage for their power poles and various types of electrical power transmission equipment. And Section 1729 of the same chapter prohibits outdoor storage. So a second code amendment is proposed that would allow outdoor storage, that would continue to prohibit outdoor storage unless permitted under 1729-030E. So there are two sections of code working together there. The approval criteria for a zone change are listed here. They are that the proposal be consistent with the applicable goals and policies of the comprehensive plan, that public facilities and services, water, sewer, storm drainage, transportation, schools, police and fire protection be presently capable of supporting the uses allowed by the zone change, that the land uses are consistent with the existing or planned function of our transportation system, and that statewide planning goals be addressed if the city's comprehensive plan does not address those. The Planning Commission has analyzed the proposed code amendment and determined that the approval criteria have been met, and the Planning Commission agreed with the applicant that the improvement and expansion of the operations center is necessary for PGE to meet the needs of the residents and activities of the city, and that the code amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Improvements to the operations center facilities for power system installation, service, maintenance, and repair will serve existing and new development and is consistent with the growth of our population and projected increases in housing. It is especially necessary to increase capability and preparation for response to emergencies that cause power outages and for disaster relief and recovery. As you know, recent weather-related incidents such as winter ice storms and the summer heat extremes and the increased awareness of potential major natural disasters and the massive recovery operations that were needed in those events require that operations and service capabilities be updated, improved, and expanded. And for these reasons and considerations, the proposed text amendment is consistent with the applicable goals and policies of our comprehensive plan for a diverse economy, connected infrastructure, and protected environment. The City Commission's options are as follows. Their first option is for you to approve the first reading of ordinance 23-1011 and approve file LEG 2301 as proposed, or you may approve the first reading with amendments, or you may not approve the first reading and direct staff to revise our recommended findings to support a denial of this proposal. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. We also have the representatives from PGE here this evening, and they are prepared with a presentation.
Are there any questions of staff? So, just for the edification of everyone, how long has that facility been in place?
To be honest, Mayor McGriff, I don't know when it was established. Perhaps the applicant can shed light on that.
A long time.
Oh, yeah, I know it's been a long time. I was just trying to figure out, like, when. Is that something you guys can answer? Yeah. Okay, then come on up. I know I was told, I just can't remember. I want to say at least 40 plus years.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
guess.
On that site, but longer.
Yeah, yeah, on that side.
Hi, thank you for having us. I am the manager of property rights with Portland General Electric. This is Tina Tippin. She is one of our property rights specialists. So we just wanted to kind of go over why we proposed this amendment and the intentions moving forward. So Pete did a really great job.
Before you get started, let me, since you're opening, so open the public hearing after staff report.
Pete did a really great job of just kind of laying out why we brought forth this amendment. Currently, we are a non-conforming use at our current site, have been there since 1952. They did a upgrade in the 70s, and then we wanted to do an upgrade and expansion and recognize that with the current code, that was not possible because of the restriction on outdoor storage. So we have been working with the city and come up with this proposed solution to have this very narrow amendment that will allow for us to have outdoor storage at the MUC zone. This is a summary of our current facility. As I mentioned, built in 1950, remodeled in 1979. Supports various different line crews, office staff, and has 14,000 square foot of office space, 15,000 square foot of storage room, and we have run out of room. We ran out of room a while ago, and I think as you guys saw in the ice storms, that has been a large impact for us. So we're trying to expand the site. And this kind of lays out why we need to expand. I think everyone is aware, the emergency response readiness is the big piece of that. We need to make sure that we have the ability to get to this area quicker with our equipment and with what's needed to be able to get power back to the community when we do have these storms or weather-related incidents. Resiliency. This area is continuing to grow. We want to make sure that we can provide the power that's needed for that as it continues to grow. And then safety, just continuing to be a safe operations and make that a better situation for us. So here is our proposed kind of expansion site. As you'll see, we have the two current tax lots that we are on now. And we have worked on acquiring the adjacent sites so that we can go from what is essentially a 6-acre site to over a 12-acre site. This will allow for us to have a better response times, be able to pull the equipment that we need from the site rather than having to go to other areas to get that equipment. And so in storms, when it's really hard to get to those areas, we're able to do that. That's it. And that's what I've got. Any questions?
Any questions?
Comment.
Go ahead.
So you're buying those 3 tax lots to the right, they're individually numbered? And then there's that building immediately adjacent to it to the east. Do you know, is that a business or is that a residence? Does anyone know?
Which address or which tax
A
lot?
small lot, 32E005CB.
Yeah,
It was a business, it was an
Was it-
insurance office
Yeah.
at one time.
Okay, and I've got no argument with PG. They did a commendable job during that ice storm. I know how many poles they had to put up and they did a great job. I just want to make sure that if that was a residence, that there's, and PG's been a good neighbor, that they make provision to give them maybe some visual isolation from whatever's going to happen in there. That's all. I've got no argument with the proposal whatsoever.
And we're still going to be coming back with the actual conditional use
Yeah,
for
it's down
any
the road.
expansions. So we will address all of those pieces.
Mike, do you have some questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. Are you expanding onto those 3 tax lots or all 7 of these ones that are outlined in yellow?
All of them that are outlined in yellow.
Okay. So that house on that small lot
I
won't.
thought it was just those
No.
three. It was my
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah, initially, we did purchase the two, and we had some, and we were looking at actually to the west, but we realized that that zoning was not going to work for us. And so we looked then to go further to the east and be able to stay within the MUC zone fully.
Just maybe a staff question, or either way, but curious, the three properties towards the Molalla side, two of them set back off of Warner Milne, it looks like, which I'm assuming was probably for a future realignment of Warner Milne, but we kind of tackled that originally, because that middle one sets out farther, so.
Yeah.
I guess is the setback that we as the city had for right-of-way is maybe not necessarily needed anymore in that section, because that one lot still pokes out?
Yeah, good point.
I know we realigned that intersection on Molalla, maybe that was why those lots were set back, but.
That may be the reason why. The site had formerly been preliminarily approved for a different development.
Right.
But the right-of-way of Warner Milne Road will be reevaluated with a conditional use application.
So that might be cleaned up and.
Yeah, it potentially would be cleaned up, and then
Okay, 'cause I
the
don't think
necessary
we-
dedication, if necessary, there would be a request for dedication of additional
Right.
right-of-way, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that
But I-
like Pete said, I think when we get into the conditional use and the site plan review, we'll look at the transportation system plan and the needs for Warner Milne in that section.
Right.
As you're aware, it's a curb-tight sidewalk.
Yeah.
Some bike lane-ish. So that we probably, at a previous partition, got sufficient right-of-way, and so we'll just
We
have to
may
work
not
through
need it
that.
anymore because we redid that section already, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so basically, when
Yeah.
years ago, those three were houses, and
Yep.
then the denturist moved into the first one, and then the resident in the middle one moved out, and it was a CPA office, and then the third one was a hair salon. So,
Oh, and I would just reiterate, I just hope PG has been a good neighbor, and I hope they continue to be a good neighbor as they become more proximate to residences.
yeah, I think they'll be landscaping it appropriately as part of the
Yeah.
conditional use permit. So do we have a question?
Thank you. And I know that this is part of the planning commission process that we're not a part of, but just out of my own curiosity, is the preliminary plan to have those outdoor storage facilities to be spread across those 7 lots, or what is that going to look like?
We will be working on design next year and really fleshing that out, and you're absolutely right, that will be part of the conditional use process. There's a couple different thoughts on, do we move the building fully over, so that we can move the employees and everything and not have to move them to a different site. So that some of that pieces we still need to work out a little bit more, now that we know the space we have to work with. And so you'll see the outdoor storage will kind of be spread out around the site, depending, because we're going to want to use the space to the best of its ability.
Thank you.
So your last neighbor there on the very edge from tax lot 1600 is an assisted living facility. So I know that the organization is aware of that. So I think in terms of what was already discussed by one of the commissioners was about adjacent neighbors and, making sure that they are, that part of the laydown yard isn't like right next to them, so.
Absolutely. We want to continue to be good neighbors. We appreciate that the neighborhood actually enjoys having us there, and we want to keep that going.
And I know the people on Cam Street are absolutely delighted now that their street isn't going to be going through there.
Right. I thought that was all gonna be apartments or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, all right, so, let's have a motion, please.
Do we have to, are there any other public, I'm sorry, are there any other public comments?
I
on
don't
this?
see anybody here.
Okay, so we'll close the hearing.
Close public hearing. Mr. Mitchell, please.
Move to approve first reading of ordinance number 23-1011, a legislative zoning code text amendment to the mixed-use corridor zone district.
Second.
Ordinance number 23-1011, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City approving a legislative amendment to Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.29, mixed-use corridor zone district of the Oregon City Municipal Code.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So before we get to item 9A, do we have Counselor Lewis available?
Yes.
All right, so under general business, we have a resolution for consideration. It's Resolution 2330, supporting the formation of a Congressional Truth and Healing Commission on Indian boarding school policies. Mr. Conkle, and then I guess I can add in why.
I was going to say, Madam Mayor, would you like to take this one?
Yes, sir. Yes, I would.
Metro Councilor Christine Lewis, Metro Council has supported Senate Bill 1723, supporting the formation of the Congressional Truth and Healing Commission on Indian boarding school policies. I was really going to hopefully turn it over to Councilor Lewis and Mayor McGriff to talk a little bit more about this.
You want to, there she is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
And your willingness to have me participate via Zoom. I was at one of the board meetings for the Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage Area Coalition with Mayor McGriff, and I was referencing the work that Metro's done and reading from our staff report. I'm proud of the leadership that Metro's government affairs team has shown in being responsive at the request from the coalition and putting together timely action that our council took. And I think it's my job to help spread the word so that other jurisdictions in the region can take action and add their voice. And I'm thankful to you, Mayor, for being so thoughtful. And I find it particularly appropriate given the history of the Jason Lee Mission and school, which were established at Willamette Station near Oregon City in the mid-1930s, and how these institutions played a role in influencing settlement in the region. I'm happy to read from our staff report, but just wanted to thank you, Mayor, for bringing this forward to your commission.
Do we have any questions for Counselor Lewis? You want to just read that? I think there's a couple of paragraphs, or actually a short paragraph in the Metro report that I think would be significant if you would be so kind.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to read that?
Yes, please. Yes.
Great, thank you. So boarding schools for American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians were established in the U.S. and were used to strip American Indians of their identities, beliefs, and languages. And the deliberate intention of Indian boarding schools was the separation of Native American children from their families, cultures, and tribal communities through removal, cutting their hair, taking their clothing, issuing uniforms, and forbidding them to speak their language or engage in cultural practices, and carrying out often severe and corporeal punishment. Children suffered sexual, cultural, and spiritual abuse and neglect, and experienced treatment that in many cases constituted torture. And many children never returned home. These are grim facts and part of our history that we don't often talk about, and it's hard to talk about. The Truth and Healing Commission on Indian Boarding School Policies Act, S 1723, would establish a federal commission to conduct a full inquiry into the assimilative policies of U.S. Indian boarding schools. The commission will document ongoing impacts of U.S. boarding schools, examine the location of children, locate church and government records, hold culturally appropriate public hearings to collect testimony from survivors and descendants, gather institutional knowledge from subject matter experts, and share these findings publicly through a final report with a list of recommendations for justice and healing. In addition to the search for records, the commission would bring together boarding school survivors with a broad cross-section of tribal representatives and experts in education, health, and children and families to fully express and understand impacts of the federal policy on Indian child removal. So that's the legislation, and the action in front of local governments is just in support of taking federal action.
Are there any questions of Counselor Lewis? Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve Resolution 23-30, supporting the formation of Congressional Truth and Healing Commission on Indian Boarding School Policies.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Do you need to read the title again, Mr. Beisman?
It's a resolution, so there is
Okay.
a title.
Mr. Wiley?
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much, Councilor Lewis, for bringing this to our attention, and we're pleased to be able to add our support with other jurisdictions in the Portland metro area, and thank you for Metro's leadership on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. We have 9B, which is a miscellaneous contract and agreement, number 73,000,0019224 with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Oregon City Quiet Zone. And I think, again, this is our esteemed Public Works Director, Mr. John Lewis, and City Manager Conkle.
I'm going to let John have this one.
You're throwing the ball to our
Well, because
esteemed.
I'll just cut to the chase and say 650,000 more, but I'm
Okay.
sure John has more he'd like to say.
Yeah, okay,
Better than I could have been again.
yes. All right, Mr. Lewis, please enlighten us.
Okay, so yes, you introduced the topic. Well, the staff report itself really didn't change much from what I presented the last time. But if you remember from the last meeting, you asked some pretty specific questions about how much is this project really going to cost? And since the background that we've done on this is quite dated, this project goes back to 2019, those were good questions, and I couldn't answer them at the time. So in this staff report, not so much the text, but in the documentation that's attached to the staff report, there's a few new items. And one of them is this 5-page memo that I put together to try to get to a better answer to that question and a couple others. So you asked 3 specific questions during the last City Commission meeting. Does the staff think that the 2.6 million projected project costs are going to get it done? And I think there was a reference to examples of other recent projects and construction costs that have kind of blown up, right? And been much more than what was originally estimated. So I think that was a reasonable question, and I'm trying to answer that with the best information that we have available. And so I'll go through that. And then the next question is if it does go over, because my thought was that I think the testimony I made was it probably will go over. If it does, what's our tolerance? And to me, that means how are we going to pay the bill, right? So I've tried to answer that. And then the last question was, there's this agreement with ODOT. I do believe in the timeline for that, we're going to see a much, a newer, an updated cost estimate for the project, but it's going to be well beyond the date that you have to make this agreement decision. So we asked ODOT about the idea of kind of some off-ramp language that could go into the agreement. And their answer, in short, was no. So I can go through that to the degree we need to talk about that. So I didn't do a PowerPoint presentation, by the way, but in the staff report, I asked Jacob if we need to, I can bring up kind of how I got there. But the bottom line is we think the project's going to cost an additional $650,000. And I did that using pricing index for the construction and a multiplier of, so increase the 2019 estimate by 41% to cover all those years. And then I also added another 4% for one more year, just because by the time we finally deliver this, we're going to be at least another year out. The original project included a 30% contingency cost, and it also included some additional costs for working with ODOT Rail, Union Pacific, engineering, so forth. So for those costs, I increased them by the construction cost index, which is a little more applicable to professional services, by 32%. So all that together, I threw in some additional funding for federal, for delivering it using the federal process. If the other point that I guess I'd make is in 2019, we had no idea how we were going to deliver this project. And one thing that I will say is that federal projects cost the agency more money to kind of deliver. There's usually a environmental process that needs to go through, and there's reporting requirements, and sometimes there's even after the project reporting. So I've included a placeholder for that as well. So again, the summary of that was an additional $650,000 over the 2.6 million that we had brought to you. And we're not proposing to change the ODOT agreement number. We're just answering your question in that I think at some point, we're still going to work very, very hard to get it done for 2.6 million. But if we don't, and we need to come back to you, we wanted to give you the best estimate that we could come up with. So how did I come up with that easement or that estimate? I used the original numbers. I provided for you that wiser memo that had all the detailed costs, because I know some of you might have wanted to look at that and see how much effort we put into that. That 2019 work was good work. It was work that was informed by Union Pacific staff, ODOT rail staff, some community stakeholders. There was a bunch of us. I think there was probably 12 of us that were doing that walkthrough, and we got a lot of feedback. Well, in addition to the fact that we had a consultant on board at the time that was very familiar with rail work. We don't do a lot of rail work, so we hired someone to do that. So I think the 2019 work looked good. It just needed to be increased to better reflect today's pricing considerations. The only other things that are, that wiser report also includes some graphics that weren't in the package before. So for those of you that hadn't seen it, you would get a much better idea of what that estimate kind of looked like on the ground with regard to gates and lanes and those kind of things. So that was included in there. And then I just kind of shared how I got to the percentages that we included as markups. So that's the price piece. The question about where we would get the funds, good question again. In my thinking about this, there's a grant, a $2 million grant that's federally funded. There's a $600,000 city contribution that we got we came to using some of your direction at the time to figure out how to move forward with the quiet zone. So we used the ARPA funding to kind of cover that. As far as cities, we're not really adding capacity here, so we're not able to use transportation system development charges, but there is some justification for some of our transportation funding dollars to be used there. And it's also, if you remember the whole, one of the main reasons we wanted the quiet zone was to better enhance the urban renewal district downtown with more housing. So there's also a nexus to utilize urban renewal funding if we need it. We don't know that we need it, but if we need it. So what's our tolerance? That's kind of up to you. And now that you have a number, feel free to hold me to that. We'll do all we can to hit that number, working with our partners at ODOT and the rail. Where was I going? Oh, how we fund that is a future decision, but I'm just recognizing that urban renewal and transportation are the most likely places that would come from. And then, as I mentioned, the idea of some off-ramp language in the ODOT agreement. In talking to ODOT about that, they have acknowledged that the staff that manage the program have run that question before through another agency agreement, and it flat failed. And so they were pretty adamant that no, there's not, one, it's got to go back through the Attorney General's timeline. This project timeline for them is going to be difficult to deliver as well. They've already asked for an extension because of these federal fundings. There's specific timelines associated with that. I actually won't go into detail, but I'm happy to talk to you afterwards about how difficult these earmarked funds are to deliver in the timeline that the legislature would like them delivered, especially when you've got all these federal requirements for environmental process. So the bottom line is even the ODOT staff are frustrated by some of those timelines because they know the process and recognize that they're one of the few agencies that's actually certified to deliver a federally funded project. So they've got a pretty big backlog. So I feel like we've got good momentum on the project. Yes, it's more than what it was when we asked for the funds. And I think your questions about so what does that number really look like were justified. And after going through that calculation, I'm happy to bring this back to you. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Go ahead.
So I actually appreciate your good work. I appreciate what you did in applying the escalators to it and developing a revised cost. I'm sure that'll even continue to change because these kind of projects don't happen in short order. The only thing I would ask, have we explored any conversation with the Grand Ronde? Because they truly, if they ever intend to put a hotel in their area, this would be a benefit to them. And if they would be, consider maybe being a contributor, that would give us an additional buffer should we need it, because it has value, especially if they consider putting a hotel adjacent to the tracks. So that would be a good conversation to have, and I would strongly recommend it.
Heard.
No questions. I just want to say that I'm still in support of moving forward with it. I've always felt this commission, this current commission never fully understand the importance that this quiet zone was for past commissions, and how much work has been put in to get it here at multiple levels of government, and for it to be where we're at and to have money that we didn't know was going to come to be sitting there. If we don't do it now, we will probably never do it. And I think we need to be cautious of going forward with the money going, the expense, but this is the time to get it done. It's going to only cost more in the future.
So Commissioner Smith, I will have to say that we have to excuse my colleagues to my left because they weren't on the commission, but I was on the commission with you at the time when we voted on this, as was Commissioner O'Donnell. And the commission at the time, including Mayor Lyle Smith, was very supportive of this, getting money from the federal government through the legislation and through Congress. We owe a great deal of debt to former Congressman Kurt Schrader for pushing and pushing and pushing this. So I don't want to give the federal government any money back. Because if you give it back to them, they're going to say, oh, you gave it back, we're not giving you any more money in the future. So I am supportive of this project, and I have every confidence that you will be able to monitor this and let us know if we're getting to that threshold. But this is important to our community. It is a goal in the urban renewal plan. We knew this was going to take a while, and we know it's going to take a while longer. But the thing that I want to bring out too, after reviewing the plans, and thank you for the very thorough, detailed report, is that there are going to be some major safety improvements here, which I think will really benefit the community in the long run. We will not have any more people driving down the tracks to get away from the police department, which already happened because they went around the gates. When you were a captain, this happened some years back. A guy tried to get away from Oregon City Police and drove down the tracks. So we'll be able to do that with these new improvements. So I think that we've got multiple goals that we can achieve here. And again, as Commissioner Smith stated, we need to keep moving this forward. So I would be supportive of this. Sir. Absolutely.
Thank you. I still support this moving forward. I am appreciative of the work that you did to give us a better estimate of what our commitments in the future may be. And for me, even though I'm not happy, as are none of us, about that increase, for me, it's the opportunity cost weighing the increased amount that we're chipping in of $650,000 about versus us losing a couple $1 million. So for me, it's the more responsible thing for us to do. And just, I think that there is a disconnect with some members of the public when we talk about this project, especially because a few of us live in that neighborhood. It's not because we don't want to, hear the train. And in fact, some of us find it nostalgic and comforting. The reason why it's important for us to do this is because it's critical to further economic development in our downtown corridor. So I'm supportive of moving it forward.
Mr. Mitchell?
Just
Take it
thank
home.
you for the work, and that the spreadsheet that was in your report made perfect sense. And you've got 30% contingencies written in on top of the contingency that was already there. So that you did what we asked, which was give us a lot more confidence that we can deliver this and be fairly confident in that $650,000. So thank you for your work, and I'm supportive as well. And I'll just go ahead and make a motion to approve miscellaneous contract and agreement number 730000192224 with ODOT for the Oregon City Quiet Zone.
Your second? Second. Second's been moved and seconded.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So 9C, do you have the handout for us with the list that I gave you?
I do not, but I can bring it up in a second.
Okay, you can bring it up, perfect. So item 9C is, I put together a list of possible conferences that are scheduled that we know of as of now for 2024, and would like to have a little bit of discussion with you all of any interest in going. Mr. Conkle's provided a very brief staff report about the budget for this, and it comes under schools, training, and travel. So I want to make sure that if opportunities are available and people want to take advantage of those opportunities, that we do that. I would certainly encourage this next year, if we can, to the best of our ability, that we attend the League of Oregon Cities meeting, at least one of them, this next year. I think it's important for us to be there and be represented. Do you want to add anything? Or did I cover it all?
I think you've covered it all. I think, we have allocated $10,000 each year of the biennium, so $20,000 over the two biennium for training opportunities for the city commission. And so you're really just here to help facilitate and help plan and make sure that you're able to get to or participate in what you'd like to.
Yeah, so I did include the AWWA just because it applies to several of us, but just for the fact of where it falls in the calendar. So you've got April, you got June, you got July, you got October, and you got November. So I just wanted to put that together so we could see kind of, where these things fall in terms of the calendar. So, any comments about any of this, or?
Before we get into the list, I just want to make sure I understand the staff report. So the 7,000 change. Thank you. So the 7,000 and change that's still there is for fiscal 23-24, which ends at the end of June.
Correct.
Ends like 7 months
Right,
from now.
right.
Correct.
Okay. And then in 24-25, is there also $10,000
Correct.
there?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first half of the year on these will come out of this balance, and then the rest.
Some of it can
Okay.
come out,
All right.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure I knew what we were doing here.
Yeah, so I also put in the OMA. Obviously, the four of you would not be going to that, so I would be going to that. So that's when that conference is. It's in really hot time in Klamath Falls. I mean, hot, not fun hot, but hot weather-wise, so that's interesting. Any comments or?
Well, anyone going to AWWA would be out of.
Yeah, not out of our budget. I said I only put it in there to show where it falls in the conference schedule.
Yeah.
So people are
But
looking at
Disneyland.
planning their trips and.
Anaheim.
So it's in Anaheim, but it's not super near Disneyland. I looked it up on the map, so kind of know where that is. I've actually asked
Been to it.
Mr. Parno to go ahead and make some room reservations because the room reservations are open right now. So hopefully, if you're watching this, Mr. Parno, you've already done that.
All right.
Comments? I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to go and that we all know who's going where and that it doesn't show up unless something shows up at the last minute, that we all inform each other about what's happening. I mean, I know right now I'll probably attend the spring conference in Klamath Falls because I'm supposed to be doing something on the program with the executive director, so I would probably go that. The LOC conference, part of the issue when you look at the calendar, some of those dates fall when we have a commission meeting, which is, problematic. I went last year and I spent got up at dark 30 and drove 3 hours to Bend to get there in time for an 11 o'clock session. And believe me that I don't want to do that again. I was just tired, exhausted, but, so that's what we got going. So please, if you need to think about it some more, let myself or the city manager know which things you are interested in attending so that we can plan ahead and we can get some better rates on things so that we're not making reservations at the last minute and things of that sort, because sooner the better. I know that registration is not open yet for the LOC conference in April, but they are planning it. It's coming up. So.
And so, historically, it's been some commissioners have wanted to go, some haven't. Some have gone 1 year, not gone the next year. So really, it's an estimate. We did raise it. I think it was 7,000 in the previous budget. You also had COVID in there. Obviously, we weren't traveling, or they were online seminars or conferences. So, we will track this. If we start to push up on that 10,000 for whichever biennial year it is, we'll have that conversation with the commission. If it's close, we'll probably take care of it. Once again, this was. We did increase it from the last biennial budget, but, it's just not sure who's really going to be interested.
Well, the one thing I would want to say is that if we do decide that more than three of us are going to go to the LOC conference, then we should probably make sure that we can adjust our schedule because October, meeting schedule, because October 17th.
No, it's after.
Yeah, so
later in the week.
We meet on the 16th, but, again, it's in Bend, and, who wants to travel that night to get to Bend for the first thing in the morning? So we may be able to tentatively adjust our schedule if three of us are going. But the sooner we know in advance, the sooner we can plan and do all of that. I don't think, let me look at the July, the April schedule.
It's the following week after our meeting.
Yeah, so we meet on the 3rd and 17th, and that would be after, which I told them it's going to affect somebody's meeting schedule, it just doesn't affect ours. On that. And then, let's see, OMA, that affects, sorry, I'm looking in June, sorry, I'm looking in July. Yeah, that,
it starts the day after our meeting
yeah,
day.
that's the day after, yeah, so I
You have that night and next morning problem.
talk to you about if I go to that, then, because I'm not going to drive 4 hours to Klamath Falls just for that, so. Okay, all right, let's move on to the last item, which is. Yes?
Mr. Ryder, will you send us all this list so we can provide our feedback?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got it to him, but not in time to get to you, so. All right, so under communications, we have a review of City Commission 2021-2023 goals update.
Thank you. This is the quarterly update on the commission goals. Finishing up 21-23 biennial year. You may recall the last time we talked about goal 2.5 was the Parks Master Plan, and that was one that was a project that was going to extend beyond the 21-23 year. The Parks Department is working to finish up the Parks Master Plan process. The second phase of that, which we've included in the 23-25 goals, is working on the capital improvement plan, the system development charge updates, and any discussion that we're going to have about alternative or additional funding to address the non-SDC eligible components of park projects and deferred maintenance. So trying to kind of bifurcate these right now. So for 21-23, it's really finishing up that public process that identifies the Parks Master Plan moving forward. So that is nearing completion, and it'll be being brought forward to the commission for discussion. The second one is the communication infrastructure, 2.6. We have not brought this to you. We've worked with the consultant. The internal review is going on. We need to finish that, bring that to the commission to complete that project in any direction from there. The citywide facilities master plan, we're bringing that before the commission next Tuesday for the initial work session to discuss where we're at and what we're seeing through that project. So they've gone through, identified all the facilities that we're looking at, started to identify prioritization of facilities based on deferred maintenance or condition of facility as well as need. And through this discussion, there are going to be some kind of decisions that are kind of like whys in the road. If we want to do this, it's going to have this kind of an impact. If we want to do something different, it's going to have a different impact on other facilities and how they move forward. So once again, that'll be before you next Tuesday. The last one is 7.1, working with Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. Both of these projects continue to move forward. The last update concerning the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation and the Cayuse 5 Memorial, we had HRB approval. Now that we have HRB approval, we did receive site plan and design review approval, which was a type 1 decision from the planning department. We're currently working with Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation on the inadvertent discovery plan that will be part of the bid documents that we put out for the construction. So at this point, we've dealt with all outstanding regulatory approvals that are necessary. We have agreement from Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. And so now we're moving into the construction bidding process for that project. Any questions on 21 through 23? Yes, ma'am.
So in our outreach and in increasing our relationships with the tribe, so when I was at Two Rivers last night, they were mentioning that they were going to be getting a meeting with the Grand Ronde to update them on their progress, and I really hope that we can get them to come talk to us before they do that. I don't want us to be behind the 8 ball, and we don't know. We haven't had an update for quite a while other than your updates, but we haven't had an update from them. And I would just appreciate the courtesy of us hearing their update before they go out and talk to neighborhood associations.
We will convey that in our conversations with them.
If that would be possible, please. I'm saying it nicely.
Okay. Moving on to the 23-25. First goal is addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We'll be bringing the potential scope of work to the City Commission for discussion at the December 20th meeting. Right now, the way we're working with HR and putting that together is bringing in a consultant to help with a DEI community task force component, a DEI training plan for the city, so internal training, as well as a city employee DEI committee. So really a formation of 2 committees, internal and external, as well as a training program associated with that. So we're going to bring that back for discussion before we put out the RFP to go through the process of hiring to make sure we're addressing the concerns as well as goals that the commission has with what we've proposed at this point to respond to this goal. 2.1. This is dealing with the IT work that we're doing. As you can see, there's quite a bit of internal changes that are being implemented, converting our phone system for consistency across the city, consolidating all of our security and cameras into one system. We have a network of systems based on when buildings were built or what system was being used at that time. Also doing some work in looking at cybersecurity at a national level, migrating all of our from a network drive to Azure in the cloud. So we're making that move right now to OneDrive across citywide, as well as the use of Microsoft Teams on a more consistent basis across cities. So quite a bit of internal migration of existing systems setting up right now. SDC methodology, so I talked a little bit about this one earlier. So this is the second component of the Parks and Rec master plan, focusing on the system development charges. So working on the CIP list and then creating what those charges are going to be for discussion to implement and increase those. Capital projects, we talked a little bit. This is from Public Works, focusing on the quiet zone, which we just discussed, inflow and infiltration programs. So contracts have been awarded for that and they'll be getting underway. Pavement maintenance utility, that pavement maintenance plan, we'll be starting to work on what the 2024 roadway projects are going to be. The WIFIA loan, so that's moving forward. As you're aware, we've closed that loan and funded. And so we're working on the updates as well as the projects that are going to be the initial projects that are be coming forward. And then also on the stormwater side, looking at the Barclay Hill stormwater outfall and trying to redesign that project to minimize impacts associated with that project. So quite a bit of infrastructure work going on citywide. No real update related to sidewalk and bike lane infills. Those are going to be tied to projects as they come in, whether that be a transportation project or a pavement maintenance utility fee project and paving project through the summer. So we'll continue to identify those as we move into the new year. The next 2.5 is the tree sidewalk lift program. As you may recall, we've identified $200,000 a year through a grant program. So far, since July of 23, the city has processed 11 applications for total grant expenditures of just over $28,000. So that program continues to be available to residents. 3.2. We've hired our community engagement specialist. So this was, as you recall, a half-time position that the commission authorized to be a full-time position, be focusing on the youth advisory committee as well as the citizen involvement committee and other tasks associated with that. So that was hired and filled on November 15th. So excited to have that position back staffed and at full-time. The homeless liaison officer, behavioral health specialist. This is another one where the commission authorized an additional FTE for a case manager to support the behavioral health specialist and the homeless liaison officer and the work that they're doing with our homeless community. So the case manager position is posted and accepting applications. So we look forward to fill that once that process is completed to assist with the behavioral health specialist. The police department is also working on an IGA with Lake Oswego, West Linn, Cambia, Molalla, or Milwaukee for a shared behavioral health software that would be utilized by the behavioral health specialists to track information related to what's being gathered in the work that they're doing. General fund for parks cleanup, public police department's working with Public Works for sign placement throughout the community. And no trespassing signs related to city property. So that fund will continue to be utilized as we identify and address camps throughout the community. The economic development opportunity. So at our last update, we were asked to split this into two. So focusing one on economic development and then a second task goal 5.2 focused on tourism. Talent Ready continues to move forward on the economic development side, as well as looking at initiatives to support business-friendly environment in Oregon City. We're also working on with economic development on the Stimson property, both on the contract for the existing tenant on the property, but also some geotechnical and environmental work related to that property and what the existing condition is. So that work is moving forward. We anticipate bringing an update related to the Stimson property and urban renewal at the December 20th meeting to the Urban Renewal Commission. The new 5.2 discusses tourism. So we're getting ready to begin the next round for the city-sponsored public event program. So getting that information out so that we can get applications in sooner, so folks will know sooner coming into the summer season on those funding and what they would be awarded. And then, as you're well aware, we've had a great discussion about the creation of a destination marketing / management organization. And we'll be bringing that back with representatives, I believe, from McMinnville and Wilsonville and the county to have a good discussion with the city commission about the DMOs and the experiences that they've had there. Housing mandates. we're just going to continue to monitor the legislation. We have the short session coming up with the legislature. There's been a working group around housing that's been working. Not sure what exactly is going to come out of the legislature during the short session that we'll have to respond to. There was another request that came out about a week before Thanksgiving, had about a 7-day turnaround, asking for projects that could support housing development. So essentially, are there infrastructure projects that could be funded through direct spending from the legislature, essentially earmarks that would provide needed infrastructure to areas that are underserved? We provided some infrastructure locations, and I believe I forwarded that to the commission. We'll see what happens. I have not heard anything from League of Oregon Cities related to if it's going to be taken up in the short session. I would imagine it is if they're going to do it, but we have not heard anything yet about hearings that I'm aware of. Protect and preserve our environment. Friends of Trees will continue to do their events through the winter and into the spring. That's really one of the main programs that we do here with the funding that's available, is making sure that we can get some trees planted back in our neighborhoods through our contract with Friends of Trees. Also associated with this is our MPDS permit, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. And that work continues to move forward as to what our requirements are with that permit and any improvements that we need to make to that process. So that concludes a quick update on kind of where we're at and what we're working on related to trying to implement the 23-25 commission goals.
Questions? Are you looking at our crappy pictures?
I
Questions?
love these pictures. There's some great pictures on here. We took new pictures tonight.
Yeah, I know. I said it at the beginning of the meeting.
Did I lose you halfway?
There's a lot of old pictures on here.
This may not be the place to talk about it.
Kind of a little sly smile on it.
It looks like somebody's going to steal your wallet.
Where's my wallet?
Maybe on some other evening or whenever you see fit, we had a discussion. I don't know if it's formally a goal, but we talked about cove water quality.
Sure.
And we can do that at the time of your choosing, but it'd be nice to get an update on that.
Which?
Could I try
Cove water
and
quality.
Cold, yes.
could I maybe just give you a quick synopsis
If you're
right now where
prepared
we're
now,
at?
I didn't want to put you on the spot if you weren't.
So, so I think I provided an update to the Urban Renewal Commission around the cove water quality. We've engaged with Brown and Caldwell, our on-call stormwater management consultant team, to prepare a scope of work for about a 10 to 11 month monitoring program of the cove. While we've been waiting for Brown and Caldwell to create that scope, they're going to create the scope. We would bring that back, have a discussion with the Urban Renewal Commission. If it's okay, we would then put that out to bid through the public bidding process. While we've been waiting and working with Brown and Caldwell, myself and Mr. Lewis reached out to Water Environmental Services and had a discussion with them if they would be interested in talking about, what could they do? Could they help us in any way? Could they partner with us on water quality or habitat improvements around the cove? As you may recall, a couple of years ago, we entered into a good neighbor agreement with West that brings about $250,000 a year to the city for improvements kind of north and west of kind of 99-205, right? The Cove area, Clackamas Park, John Storm Park. So they were open to that. They were actually really excited. You may not know, they actually do stormwater testing at the facility here in Oregon City. They also have a relationship with Portland State University. They have, Portland State has a graduate doctoral program around water quality. They've used master students, graduate students at some of their other projects. You may also be aware, I believe they've received a little over a $3 million awarded grant for some wetland work at a different property that they own up the Clackamas. So they were excited. They're actually going to sit in on our discussion with Brown and Caldwell when we review the scope and bring some of their technical experience to what would a monitoring program look like and what are we trying to achieve? So I think there may be an opportunity to continue those discussions with Wes and see where those go. The other one is wanting to reach out to Clackamas River Watershed Council. Obviously, they do a lot of work and have been very successful on plantings, mitigation, wetland mitigation along the Clackamas River. So trying to move forward while we have a little bit of time while we're waiting for the scope to see if there's any type of relationships that we could bring to that project over the long term.
What about the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council? They have their office right down there on 17th and...
We could certainly reach out to them as well. Yep.
Well, I appreciate the update. Everybody needs to know this is a long-term project. It's seasonal, it's monthly, there'll be so much data to gather. And it's not going to happen immediately. It'll probably be over the course of a year. Because you're in a much different situation in July and August than there is in November, December. But it's a start, and I appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Michael, anything? Adam?
I do have one more.
Okay.
And maybe I missed it, sir. Is the facilities management plan, is that complete?
The facilities master plan?
Yeah, because we talked about the impact and what we want to do with the old
Center Street?
Center Street facility.
So when we bring that back next Tuesday, we're going to bring it to
Okay,
the
next
commission in a
Tuesday.
work
All right.
session. And so I think a lot of work has gone into identifying how do we move forward with certain buildings? Like what are their limitations? What are some, what are the maintenance? What are some improvements that have to happen? But then there are going to be discussions like we've prioritized buildings that we have concerns about. No surprise. Pool, end of the Oregon Trail, and I think that there are decisions that need to be made about those really kind of up front. And then you're gonna, there's things that can wait. The building's fine, keep up the maintenance. It's gonna be there for 15 years. It serves its purpose. And then, we're envisioning, this becomes the roadmap that we revisit every 5 years or so for some of these longer term projects, but really trying to get a handle on some of these really upfront, significant investments that are gonna have to be made or not, right? And are we gonna continue to be a pool and provide it or not? And I'm assuming we are, right? But then that means there's a significant investment in some decisions. Is it just a pool? Is it a pool and a rec center? Is it, how ambitious are we? So those are gonna be some of the discussions. So it's not done. A lot of the groundwork's done. And now it's kind of refining to what the commission thinks the vision should be.
Well, I certainly agree with the summary, and I certainly agree with prioritizing needs. So we'll go through it when the time comes.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess part of what I want to bring to the commission's attention is that I've received a number of comments from our constituents that are in the natural resources field. And of course, they are completely disappointed that we eliminated one of the goals from last time. But regardless of whether or not we do a climate action plan at this time, one of the things that I would be very interested in, and I hope we can address in the facilities master plan, is how are we working as a city to reduce our carbon footprint? So for instance, if there are buildings that we have an opportunity to put solar panels on or something to that effect to reduce our dependence, or for instance, when we look at buying new fleet vehicles, are we looking at more energy efficient vehicles? Are we looking at, hybrid vehicles? We're not ready for electric, but again, I had suggested that when we built this building, I had mentioned to the chief, I thought we should put in a charging station. PGE was willing to work with us on that. Do we have one at Public Works at all? Do we have a charging station there for us? So again, to me, that's a lost opportunity that we kind of missed the boat on. So I'm hoping that we will, again, it's like I said, just because we don't have a plan, it doesn't mean that we can't take advantage of opportunities that are out there for us. So, but I did want to ask a question. It's not really a goal, but maybe we'll get to it under my communication. So don't leave, John. And then we were talking about money. And of course, I looked over at Mr. Zook and I thought, well, he might put his hand in his pocket and take out some sort of bankroll to help us with the quiet zone. But I know you're getting there. So that's okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. City Manager. And Commissioners, communications or any thank yous you want to make towards the end of this meeting?
You had mentioned this earlier, that at the last meeting, you talked about the loss of life that had occurred tragically in our city. And I wasn't there, but since I am here now, I just want to acknowledge Anna. She was someone who I knew personally. She was very involved with the school district and the music program, and so that's how I got to know her. And she was also involved with the children's theater, and so when I was involved with that, I got to know her. And she was one of my music instructors growing up, and so those were the skills I was able to use to be able to afford college through scholarships. And so I just owe a lot of where I am from the skills and the lessons that she taught me, and that she taught so many others throughout our community. There are so many students whose lives she touched, and it's so heartbreaking to realize that this can happen in your own small community. And so her family is in my prayers still, and I just appreciate seeing how our community has come together in the wake of this tragic loss.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Mr. Mitchell?
Just other than the tree lighting, which
Yeah.
went well, you can probably comment on that.
Sure. Yep. The rain held off while Santa was out, and we had I had an assistant while I was wrangling the people to see Santa. Mr. Conkle came over and helped out because we got slammed there for a while. But yeah, I wanted to thank our staff for all their support, particularly our public works staff, Wes and Jed, who were out there keeping everything going. Sergeant Justin Young, who put on the lights on the car and thrilled all the students, and thank you for the escort down with Santa. And the tree lit on cue, on time, and on budget, so to speak. I also want to thank our other parts of our staff. We had our very first Diwali celebration at the senior center, and the senior center staff, as usual, did an excellent job. We had a great turnout. I didn't know there were so many people that were interested in that, and they had some great activities, books from the library, soul flags, several other community groups, and the Arts Commission provided the funding to help with that. And we're going to have many more of these in our community. I think the next one they're working on right now is Chinese New Year, which has actually slipped it over to February. So it'll be Year of the Dragon, so all you dragons get ready for that. And I just wanted to thank the staff in general, but I actually had a question for Mr. Lewis. I wonder if you could give us a brief update on how things are going with the bathroom facility, our new loo. As they're snickering back there.
And while he's coming up, the discussion about electrification or energy conservation, staff's been working with, there's an energy efficiency and conservation block grant that we've gotten our name into. So now so we are moving towards, when these opportunities come up, trying to follow through on those. So there'll be more to come on that once we know a little bit more about that program and what that outcome will be.
All about getting some free grant money. It's never really super free, but it's relatively free.
Okay, update on the new,
Lou, yeah. So what
I think there's been 582.5 flushes since we installed that thing.
Thank you, that's good to know.
No, you caught me a little
Seems
bit
about
off
right.
guard here. I would say that there has been a minor amount of graffiti that we've been able to deal with because of the surfaces, the type of surfaces. They're
Inside or outside?
inside.
Oh,
We do have a surveillance camera there, so that's been a challenge to get kind of fully functional, but that's been working. We changed out, I think we heard about some folks, the way the locking mechanism on that was you could push the button from the inside like you typically do with a lock. The problem with that is people were pushing the button and then walking out, and so it was getting locked with nobody in it, so we've changed that out. I think we had some of the warranty work inside with a leak, but I haven't really heard, I haven't asked my staff. They've not reported any real problems other than kind of that, but I haven't really asked how, like, for instance, DOCA is feeling about how that's working, what they're hearing from the general public. So
I've heard it's been relatively okay, although there's a few outliers in the downtown that says, why don't we have it open 24 hours? And I told this person, I said, well, if you want to come out and staff it, that'd be great. But I said, we don't have the ability to do that. And we know that if people are, we hear the saying about what happens after 2 a.m., things happen, and we don't want that to happen there. But it's been, from what I understand from them, it's been received. So have you heard anything, Chief Davis?
Just the same thing. Some minor problems with the graffiti, some minor problems with people being inside the restroom too long or, staying in there and not using the restroom. So we've dealt with those appropriately, but otherwise, minor issues.
How are our new folks settling in?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Our new folks, our new police officers?
Oh, they're doing great. Yeah. One August he's graduating next Friday, so that'll be good for us. And then have a couple of them that are going to be back for Christmas break. I think they have 2 or 3 weeks, so you'll see them around, but things are going well.
Well, I at the Two Rivers Neighborhood Association, I received a very good comment about, it was all about Oregon City Police. We love you, rah, 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 zip, boom, bob. And I said, well, of course, we would expect no less. So I passed that on. And I also attended the Caulfield Neighborhood Association meeting and was quite interesting. I didn't have anything planned. I just answered questions. Commissioner Morrow was in attendance, and I should have called on you to give me a break, but he gave me that look, so it was like, no. So I will be going back. Apparently, there are lots of questions that they have about this, that, and the other thing, particularly about traffic, of course. 213, its capacity, failing intersection, et cetera, where are all these people coming from? And I said, well, some of you who live in the newer subdivisions, you're contributing to the queuing, but we know that it's over capacity. We are doing what we can to push our friends at ODOT to do the fix to their road. I said, it's not our road. We're not going to fix it. But we know that there are issues. We have some minor things that we're going to do with turn lanes and things of that sort. But I said, really, the bigger fix is down the road. And unfortunately, we keep kicking that can down the road. But, I said, for those of you that were here a long time when that opened, it was almost at capacity the day it opened. So I said, I don't know what to tell you about that. So, all right.
Could I, just one more
Absolutely.
quick thing real quick. So may recall, we changed the code so that Planning Commission, Historic Review Board, and then historically, Urban Renewal has always
Did we
been
get our survey?
interviewed and appointed by the City Commission. So there was, we're going to need to do these interviews kind of on an off night. We really couldn't do it during a commission meeting night.
What was our poll results?
We didn't really get them, but I just wanted to clarify. So for Planning Commission, we have 1 seat open. We have 3 applicants. 2 of them came after the deadline, but there was some concern about the number of applicants. So I guess I'm trying to get direction. If we have 3 applicants for 1 position for Planning Commission, are you okay if we schedule with you, find a date when we can do
Yes.
interviews? Everyone's
Yes.
good with that? Okay. Historic Review Board, we have 4 seats open, and you may recall Historic Review Board has some that are dedicated to a neighborhood or a position. Architect, McLaughlin, Chamber of Commerce, and at large. We have 4 applicants that are kind of a mix of McLaughlin, at large, architect, and we've reached out to the chamber for who they'd like to appoint. Mr. Stobie's done his 6 years total, 3 and 3, so he can't run again or be appointed again because it's consecutive. So we have 4. Okay to move forward?
Yes.
Okay. Urban Renewal, we have 1 seat and we have 2 applicants. Sufficient?
I'd like more.
Fine by me.
I'd like more.
Okay.
Commissioner Morrow and I would like us to go out. I'd like at least 3 to 4 if we can. I don't think it's critical that we have to fill that one immediately. We still have a quorum, but I'm not satisfied at this point in time with the turnout. I don't know who the applicants are, but I'd like to see more people. So I'd like us to continue to advertise that.
So I guess I heard 2, I heard 1. Really, it's up to it's the city commission decision here.
if we were in jeopardy of losing our quorum, I would be concerned, so.
Well, I agree with the mayor for the simple reason that one of the applicants is someone who we all know well and who I feel is not, at least in my mind, a contender because of the interactions that have happened in the past with the city, which for me leaves only one real applicant for this position, which is not something I'm comfortable with.
So if you guys are okay, we'd like to go out for,
I'm comfortable with what we've got.
yeah, and I'm not, so.
Okay.
Mike, could you agree with us to look a little further?
I don't want to
please?
drag it out very long, but if we need to,
After the first of the year, I think we're still okay.
how long after the first of the year? I don't want to drag it out.
Like I said, we're not in danger of losing a quorum or anything, it's one position.
No, but there's a
But it's a
reason.
critical position.
I understand. Waiting until,
How
I mean,
soon
open
can
it
you-
for
how-
30 days.
How soon can you get it reopened?
I could live with that. But go ahead with the other two.
How soon could you get it re-advertised?
It re-advertised. It's already open. Advertising, I can work with Jared and get advertising done anytime.
Okay, well, let's look at getting them in by the time of our second meeting in January.
So what was the one that had 4 openings and 4 applicants?
The Historic Review Board?
But there's, as he says, some of those are very specific, so the position can only be filled by a person representing the chamber. No
Well,
other
I
position
understand the
can-
chamber thing, but I don't think we have an architect applying.
Yeah, we have, it's a
Do we?
person within that field, yes. Architect,
See, I think if we're
archaeology,
reopening
landscape.
one, then if you got a 4 and 4, 4 applicants and 4 positions, well, maybe you should reopen that too.
Yeah, because there's basically no choice there.
Yeah, there's no choice. So, I mean, let's be fair about the thing.
So I,
Usually with the chamber, we're very lucky to get one person. And apparently, from what I understand, we have somebody who's interested from the chamber, and that's a,
Well, I'm not isolating to the chamber. I'm saying there's 4 positions and 4 applicants, and there's no choice. If you're going to fill them, you don't have a 6 for 4
No,
position or so.
but one of the positions is McLaughlin. I believe there's 2 or 3 for that. 2 at least.
so there's 4 positions open. One is the chamber. So really there's 3.
3.
We have 4 applicants, one McLaughlin at large, and potentially architect. We're verifying that.
She's an archaeologist.
One McLaughlin and one at large. So you've got an architect position that's available. Really, you have 1 architect option. You have McLaughlin, 1, 2, 3 McLaughlin options. But if you take the architect out, you have 2. And then at large, I mean, anyone could be at large technically.
I get all that. I just
Yeah.
figure if 2's not enough, and why is 4 for 4 enough? But do what you will.
No, I have the
I would
same
love to do
concerns.
what you would like.
I know that 2 of the people who are currently serving on HRB are applying for reappointment. And one of them is the architect's position.
Maybe there's other people that would like the opportunity to apply that haven't. I mean, we're reopening some. Why not reopen?
Okay, well, then go ahead and,
Consistent until the first of the year.
yeah, so let's reopen that one till the first of the year.
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
Okay, so HRB and urban renewal, we're going to re-advertise for
Right.
roughly 30 days. And planning commission, we're okay to move forward with?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, being no further business, let's adjourn. Let's take